Welcome back to the Sports Seriously NBA show presented by USA Today Sports. I'm Prince Grimes, back with our esteemed NBA expert Lorenzo Reyes. Lorenzo, we got a day off, man. These NBA playoffs can be a marathon as much as I love them, but I know you had to enjoy that day off.
Yeah, man, it was nice. Let me tell you. I was like almost conditioned. I went to like turn on the TV to watch it because I thought I had to work, and I was like, wait, no, we got a night off. I just chilled. It was nice, man. How'd you spend it?
Uh, Being a dad,
There
the
you go.
stuff that I've been
There you
neglecting that
go.
I probably should have been doing all along. No, I'm joking. But we do get
But
games
we're
coming
back.
back tonight.
We're back.
Yeah, we are back. Sorry to my son. He's gonna have to go to bed early again tonight. But yeah, we're back Friday night. We got Cavs, Pistons coming up here. Game six. The Pistons are trying to fight off elimination now, down 3-2. So let's start there, Lorenzo. I want to ask you, how can Detroit win one on the road and force this game seven?
Man, I mean it's I feel like we say the same thing every week about the Pistons. And it's like Cade, Cade is gonna show up, but it's just the other guys have to step up. And I'm I might throw something out here, but I wonder if it's time for Paul Reed to be in the starting lineup. Like honestly, which is crazy to say because Jalen Duren is a good young player. I like him. I like his game. I like what he does. But at this point, to me, it seems almost like it's maybe like a confidence issue, something that's like mental going on in his game. I just don't see him as aggressive. I don't see him offensively trying to assert himself. And you can really tell when Paul Reed comes into the game. That's when you're like, oh, this is what Detroit is missing. It's interesting to me though too because in Game Five, Paul Reed doesn't play at all until the fourth quarter and overtime when he played the entire thing. So I wonder if JB Bickerstaff is sitting there being like, maybe it's time we make a change. And granted, like I know that is a drastic thing to be doing, Game Six, an elimination situation. But like JB also has to understand that he's got to do something to change it because, like, you know, Jalen Duren getting 0 minutes in the fourth is really concerning. But whether it's Paul Reed, whether it's Jalen Duren, whether it's Tobias, Duncan Robinson, like somebody else has to step up and give me 22. Like I'm not asking for anything crazy. Like these guys can all do that, but it just cannot be the Cade Cunningham show because the Cavaliers, they're doing a decent job against Cade. He's still getting his, but it's more I think the energy that Cade is expending, just trying to keep everything together. It's like it's not a cohesive operation. So that is how Detroit wins. But can they do it? I don't know. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Jalen Duren, 0 minutes in the fourth quarter is insane, but also it's probably the right call. Like the way
Yeah,
he's been playing, Paul Reed, was just better than him. And, it's wild to see a couple of old Sixers, Reed and Tobias Harris, kind of be these guys that, help lift the Pistons up. But also, Tobias finally had a little bit of an off game that last game. They didn't really get much from Jalen Duren. And yet, the Pistons still should have won that game, right? Like it came down to, overtime where a lot of people argue that Asar Thompson got fouled at the end of the game, should have had some free throws with a chance to win. They should have never blew the lead in the first place. And so I think for the most part, Detroit just needs to show up and continue doing what they've been doing and trust that, the work that they've put in and the results that they've had in the past will continue if they continue to put in the work. Obviously, Tobias needs some of those shots to fall this time around because Cade can't do it alone. He's going to need some help. Um, Danis Jenkins, he played a phenomenal game. I don't know if you can count on him giving you that again in the starting lineup, but if you can, more power to him. And then one of these bigs, preferably Jalen Duren, but some players are just like that where they are regular season guys, right? Like you can count on them to get you this and this in the regular season. The playoffs come, the defenses lock in a little more. The teams are able to game plan for certain players specifically, and for whatever reason, he's just not been a big part of the Pistons offensively in this postseason. And I don't know that they can expect that to change in the game six right now. And so they have to count on some other guys to kind of, hey, we need you to fill in the scoring here. And so, but yeah, I'll be honest. I'm kind of, I don't believe in this whole Pistons thing. I've been kind of skeptical of it the entire season as they've risen to the number one spot. So it's not that surprising that they're, I don't want to say struggling. It's the second game six of the second round of the playoffs. It's been a successful season for them. Um, they are the one seed though, and so I guess it would be a little bit of disappointment to lose here and fall short of the conference finals. Um, and so I think as long as they do those things, we'll get another good game. Who comes out on
Yeah,
top, that remains to be seen. It kind of depends on how Cleveland shows up because you never know what you're going to get from them from game to game either.
for sure, for sure. I mean, you mentioned a few former Sixers contributing. It seems like that's happening all over the playoffs, which makes sense that Daryl Morey's out of a job between Jared McCain, Champagny in San Antonio, Isaiah Joe, OKC. But going back to the Pistons, the other thing I think tactically, Game Five to me showed they need to play quicker in transition. They need to get those turnovers. When they're able to do that, I think Cade is it's easier offense, and he can get those guys better looks. So, I mean, they did do that in Game Five. To your point, like this is a game they really should have won, probably. But like if you get, I think it was like 27 points off of turnovers, and that's not good enough, then maybe you need like 35, something like that. But they have to play desperate. They have to like really clamp down defensively and building their identity, but they have to play loose too. I feel like sometimes you watch them and they're just like offensively they look a little tight. They're just kind of like all waiting for Cade to do his thing. Granted, I think that happens when they get into the half court. Sometimes they kind of just slow down and stagnate a little bit. But you know, they don't look like a team that's having fun. It's a weird like like you see like San Antonio, like Minnesota, even when they're playing well, like these are teams, OKC for sure. These are teams that look like they're having a good time when they're doing this. This is the playoffs. You're the one seed. Your backs are against the wall, so there is some pressure, but like you're playing a child's game. Go out there and do your thing. Just don't get so tight. Like I think that's a lot of that is just maybe like a cultural thing. And I don't think that's gonna be fixed necessarily for game six or game seven. But they just need to trust, like you said, trust they know how to win. They've done this before. It's just actually making it happen.
Yeah, everything's a grind with Detroit. And you're right, they have to play desperate but not panic. And maybe
Right.
that's where we see, the first round of the playoffs where they had to climb their way out of a hole to overcome Orlando. Maybe that comes to their benefit here and they won't panic. They know exactly what it is because they've faced elimination already in this postseason. Um, let's move to the Western Conference. Spurs in a similar situation. The Timberwolves in a similar situation against the Spurs. They're going into this game six trying to fight off elimination. Um, they've kind of, not looked as sharp these last couple of games. What do you think Minnesota, or better yet, who needs to step up most for Minnesota to help Anthony Edwards?
You know, as I look at they this series has been interesting because they've had really good games and they just had like games almost where they were like it looks like they conceded them in a way. I'm not saying that's what happened, but like you're watching it and you're just like you can tell pretty early on that like San Antonio came out electric. Like Victor set the tone in the first quarter with those 16 points. Like it was just the vibe was off for Minnesota. The answer is probably a little bit of everyone. Like
Yeah.
you know, Rudy Gobert offensively has become kind of like just a non-factor. And I don't you don't want your offense if you're Minnesota to go like rely on Rudy, but if he can give you at least 12 rather than 4, then at least we're looking at something where it's not like you don't want him to be a liability offensively. And granted, like, Victor Wembanyama's low post presence, that makes a big difference. The biggest like I think the one the big like the most obvious answer I think is Julius Randle,
Yeah.
just because he is the second guy. um, he's had like game six. I think he had 16 or 17 points. Like that's fine, but like they were kind of like they felt almost like empty points. You want him to be sort of like um, consistently getting his and like just a part of the offense. And it like you said it. If San Antonio is throwing double teams at Anthony Edwards, number one, probably take the ball out of his hands and like have him work a little bit more off ball. But that just creates steady opportunities for guys to get theirs. The other option you could do is maybe like use Ant as a little bit of a decoy so that you're inviting those double teams to get open shots for these guys, but they got to be hitting them. So it is a sort of catch 22. I mean, again, like I want to see like Io DeSumo. He had that game where he had
Yeah.
39. Like it would be nice for him to show up and have a big game. Granted, I don't want to say like this is Io's fault. Like he's been solid. It's kind of like he's been delivering what's expected of him. But you know, this is a really good Spurs team, and in order to get that win, you're just going to have guys have those big games, guys that aren't Anthony Edwards. So, um, yeah, I mean, I guess it's maybe a little bit of a cop out saying everyone, but it's everyone, but also like Julius. Julius really is the one who really has to carry that responsibility.
It's a cop out, maybe, but it's the right answer. Everyone needs to step up. But if we want to drill down on one person specifically, I mean, you named the two people that I had top of mind, Io DeSumo, who actually was pretty good the last game. It got it got a little out of control, so you can't help that. But Julius Randle's the one. Like he's having one of these drop offs from the regular season to the playoffs. I don't want to say it's on the same track as Jalen Dern, but we've seen this from Julius before where you're not quite the same player when the playoffs comes around. And as someone who is counted on to be the second scoring option for this Timberwolves team, they just can't afford to not have him show up, especially in a series where Ant came in banged up. We didn't know if Julius was going to have to be the guy. And not only hasn't he been the guy, he hasn't been their second best scorer either. I think it's been Jaden McDaniel so far. And Randall kind of has this, thing where he can do a lot of things on the basketball court. I respect his game. Similar to James Harden, in that Harden is a scorer, but he also kind of falls into this point guard role sometimes where he wants to distribute the ball. And Randall's nowhere near the distributor and playmaker that Harden is. But he does that sometimes where he falls into this, all right, I'm just going to set the table. And it's like, no, actually, we need you to be aggressive. We need you to go out here and help Ant get some buckets. And I think that's what they need. But also, Ant, I know he started the series injured, and I said that, but I also think he can take his game up a notch too. And I think that minutes restriction is probably a little lifted now. He hit 40 minutes the last couple of games now, so I think he's free to just go out there and play. He's back in the starting lineup, and he has put up some big numbers, but I think he can do a better job at controlling the pace, especially when the ball's in your hands as much as it is and you see San Antonio kind of, gaining some momentum. I think he can do a better job at just slowing things down, not rushing it offensively, because a lot of times once that ball gets rolling, it's hard to slow it down. And Minnesota just doesn't really have the type of offense collectively that's going to fight back in a fast paced game going back to back. And so sometimes Ant wants to immediately answer, and sometimes it's like, hey man, you kind of got to relax this thing before it gets out of control, because once it does, you can't fight back.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's all correct. I agree with everything. I think going back to Julius quickly, I think it's also efficiency. Like there are games where he gets his points, but it's maybe like he's taking 20 some shots or 17. So last game it was 6 of 17, like for 17 points. That's not what you want because, as you mentioned, Minnesota's half court offense sometimes just it's a little bit of a slog. So it is about getting cleaner looks and all that. But you know, this has been an interesting series because I think I was expecting San Antonio's inexperience in the playoffs to show up maybe a little bit more than actually a lot more than it has. But like Dylan Harper's playing like an absolute veteran out there. Like he's been hooping. Victor's been like obviously doing his thing, but like when I was talking about the Pistons sort of like playing desperate but having fun, like this young Spurs team, they're kind of doing that, having never been to this spot. Like they're playing like a team that knows what it needs to do to win. So I've been really impressed with them, and also like we're talking about Mitch Johnson, who's not an experienced coach. They have young guys all over the floor. Like it's been really interesting to watch. So I'll be curious to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, one thing I'll add about Minnesota is we've seen this with them before in past series, past playoffs, where they have these huge swings from game to game. They'll get blown out one game and then blow out the other team by 20 points. Like Minnesota does this. They're not really consistent from game to game, but I'm not counting them out by any measure, any at all, because we know they can bounce back and really put up a big game and force a game seven here. So let's lead into that. I'm gonna go ahead and put you on the spot, Lorenzo. Who do you have advancing to the conference finals from these last two series?
Advancing to the finals, I would say the man. I'll say Spurs. I picked the Timberwolves to win before the series started because I thought that inexperience would be more of a factor, but San Antonio just looks like it's ready. Um, like I want to say Detroit, but I don't even know that they make Game 7. Like Cleveland has not lost at home. They've been really great in Rocket Arena. I think they might close it out tonight. Um, but somehow, like I don't know why. Like my gut is telling me like Detroit is a better team, even though they're not. Like you watch them and like we talked about this last playoffs where we were talking about like threats to the Knicks, and we were talking about Boston being a better team than maybe Detroit. So as much as like my for some reason I'm having this internal struggle, I'm going Cleveland. Who do you got?
Well, I am gonna go Detroit. I'm gonna go
All right.
Detroit. I think they go ahead and force a game seven and then get it done at home. It, it's. I know I said I don't really fully believe in this Detroit thing, but I also don't believe in the Cleveland thing either. And I almost think
Yeah.
the backfire on them that Harden got his good game out the way, even though the shooting splits are still kind of shaky. But you like to see aggressive Harden, and they did get that. He's hit some timely buckets for them, so you just know that dud is on the way. Maybe Spider picks it up because he wasn't necessarily the sharpest out there. But I'm gonna go Detroit. I just like the way they defend. I think they have a chip on their shoulder after that last game. Asar Thompson is really bringing it defensively. And then in the West, I'm gonna go San Antonio, but I do think Minnesota wins Game 6. I think Minnesota can force a Game 7, and then San Antonio, obviously the higher seed, they're gonna get that Game 7 at home, and I think they go ahead and pull away. They're the better team. You mentioned Dylan Harper. That guy's playing phenomenal right now, man. It's only a matter of time before they just got to put him in the starting lineup. And yeah, I think we get the Spurs Thunder conference finals that everyone's been waiting for, anticipating, and then I think it'll be Detroit going up against the Knicks.
Man, Detroit's like that they're like that person that like in the group project just didn't do anything until the very end and they're like, "Oh, like that's due like in 2 days. We got to get to work." Because like the Magic series, the first round, like again, it still surprises me that that team was down 3-1 in the series. Um I didn't there was a point where I didn't think they were going to win that series, but it let's say in your situation Detroit advances, do you trust them at all to compete against this Knicks team?
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. I mean we said this, couple of pods ago, but I think the Knicks are the clear cut, favorites to kind of make it all the way. The only team that can shoot the Knicks in the foot is the Knicks.
Yes, sir. That's absolutely right. But tell you what though, this time off, they're going to be fresh for that Eastern Conference Finals. Like they've been setting themselves up for a run, so it'll be interesting. But yeah, exciting things, man. We got some hoops on the way. We're starting to see the best teams come out, and yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yes, sir. All right, we'll wrap it there. Thanks everyone for watching again. Please like, subscribe, comment. Let us know who you got winning these next two games, who you got going to the conference finals. We'll catch you next time. Peace.